Jeff from Atomic Gamer here, and we're a little starstruck because we've got someone here that needs no introduction for RPG fans. Feargus from Obsidian. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's great to have everybody here to get to see the game.
So Dungeon Siege 3, tell us a little bit about it, and tell us what it is, what it means for this to be Obsidian's next big game.
Right. So it was great to be able to get to work on Dungeon Siege 3. I played the first two games, Dungeon Siege 1 obviously and 2, and I really liked the direction that Gas Powered Games was going with them. In other words, that kind of they took they had this whole idea of like this continually streaming world on the PC for Dungeon Siege 1, and they kind of started to add more RPG abilities and things in there. And so what was really cool for us was be able to kind of take that and now move it one step even forward from that and get it actually on and get it on the console as well. And so it's just been a really fun challenge. And from the standpoint of like sort of it being our next great game, a lot of it is just it's great to get to work on role-playing games.
Now, Dungeon Siege 3, a lot of people are going to be playing a Dungeon Siege game for the first time, especially the console gamers. Now, obviously, we know that this can work because of Fallout 3.
Right.
Is that sort of the strategy you guys have thought of? Or what are the challenges that bringing a game to new people, especially when it's the third game in the series, what does that bring?
So it's interesting, and it's funny that you bring up actually Fallout, because that's a great example, and I think a lot of it is that. But I think what's interesting about Fallout, the original Fallouts were not action role-playing games. So they were more turn-based, and it was about being in the Fallout world and how that all worked. And so in some ways, I almost want to think our job was a little easier. Of course, we always like to climb bigger hills than we're really ready for. But in this case, I think it was like we took a lot from a game that we had produced and then worked on, which was the Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance series. When we were at a number of us were at Black Owl Studios. Snowblind Studios actually made Dark Alliance 1, and then we did Dark Alliance 2 internally. And so a lot of that showed a great progression of like how do you take one of these big epic PC role-playing games brands and move it to the console, move it to the console. And so we kind of looked at that, and we kind of looked like what is fun about playing Dungeon Siege, what's fun about playing action role-playing games, and just made sure like. Do we take each of those little bits, like each of the pieces of that, and go, okay, how do we make a whole game out of that? And a lot of it was to kind of focus on the minute-to-minute gameplay from a standpoint of we want it to be that fun, sort of like pressing the button, smashing monsters on the head, but bringing in what we bring into role-playing games, which is a lot of characters and story.
Now, there's been a lot of talk, of course, about Dungeon Siege on consoles and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But obviously, PC gamers have something that they would at least want to say or at least hear about, especially with a new Dungeon Siege game. Mm-hmm. So what can you tell us about the PC version that will, and of course, PC gamers often are, they're very trepidation, they're always nervous. Always nervous about a PC game that's also on consoles. So it's time to soothe some
Right. So I guess the best thing I can say is that I grew up playing and I grew up making PC role-playing games. And so we want to make sure the experience it's like that. I mean, I always have this war in me of whenever a new game comes out, do I buy it on Steam or do I buy it or do I get the Xbox or the PS3 version? And so that's constantly in me. So a lot of it when we look at, we want to make sure we want to focus as much as we can on the PC play so that it feels good. I mean, if you look, God, what's a good example? I mean, Fallout New Vegas is not as a good example. I mean, because the PC version plays a lot like the console version, and that's fine, because it's first-person shooter. I guess if you go all the way back to Star Wars: Knights of the Republic, we actually worked quite a bit on the PC version to make sure you had that mouse interface as compared just to the console interface. And so we take all that stuff into consideration when we work on the PC builds of things because we want it to be fun. We want it to be a fun PC experience.
Recently, we just saw Double Fine. Double Fine just released stacking, so that's their second game now. Mm-hmm. Since Brutal Legend, the big AAA game came out, big huge deal, and then they decided let's scale it back. Right. We're going to bring live arcade games and stuff like that. Right. Do you see that a possible direction for Obsidian in that direction?
It's funny actually you should say that. So we always want to make big epic RPGs. It's what I love to do. It's what everybody loves to do here. But we actually right now we have been working on an XBLA game, and it's sort of it's along the veins of what we do, which is how do you take one of our RPGs and put it on XBLA? So we're actually now just taking it around to publishers and seeing who's interested in publishing it. And so hopefully there'll be an announcement in the next few months about kind of what we're doing, sort of like what Tim Schafer's group is doing, and taking everything we know about these bigger games and making it a little bit smaller.
Do you feel like there's room for maybe not having to go because every game has to have action, every RPG has to have action now.
Yes.
Do you feel like in the direction of the downloadable game, you can go back to the roots of this sort of turn-based RPG, and can you get both PC and console players into that?
That's a tough call. So I think the thing is actually, I think someone had asked me the other, actually back at E3 about thinking about like, well, why aren't there Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, Planescape Torment games anymore? And I didn't have a good answer. Like, I'm usually full of answers, and you insert whatever word you want with answers. But it made me stop because I was like, well, why isn't there? It's not because we weren't selling them. They actually were all selling. I mean, obviously, BG2 sold amazingly. I mean, not amazingly more, but it sold quite a bit more than BG1 did. Icewind Dale 1 and Icewind Dale 2, they did well too. Torment did well. So why did we stop making them? And the answer wasn't because they weren't selling. The answer was because Bioware moved on to the console, and Interplay lost the license for D&D stuff. And it wasn't so it wasn't, and so it really made me think. It was like, I would go buy a game like that. And so it's one of the things that we've obviously been kicking around in our heads a lot is like, how about an Icewind Dale 3? Like, how would people react to an Icewind Dale 3? I mean, obviously it couldn't be exactly like that. It can't be let's go take the dust off that code and now just render different art. I mean, it has to be more than that, and it has to take kind of where players are today, because even for PC players, what we remember fondly from 10, 12, 13 years ago, I don't know if we'd feel as fondly about today if it was more of a full price product. Go picking up Icewind Dale for $5 off of GOG or something like that. I mean, totally go do that. But I think we'd have to think a little bit differently. But I don't know. I think there's something there. I've been starting to talk about it. I've been talking to Atari about it, and let's see. I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think it would be something cool.
Now, I guess last question. I've always asked game developers, what are you playing? And a lot of them are like, well, I don't have time to play anything.
Right.
So I got to ask you, are you playing anything recently? And how much? What's it like?
So what have I been playing recently? Let's see. Over Christmas break, I finished Fable 3. And it's funny that you mentioned Tim Schafer's group. Before that, I had finished Costume Quest with my kids. I was playing Lego Harry Potter with my son over the weekend. I got an EVE account again, and because I wanted to get a sense for like how that is. It's the super crazy, in a good way, super crazy MMO. I just finally upgraded my account to Cataclysm, so I want to start a new character and try all that stuff out. And what else have I been playing? I'm trying to think of I actually had picked up Asheron's Call 2, not Asheron's, I always say Asheron's Call, Assassin's Creed 2, because it's AC, Assassin's Creed 2 a little bit before Christmas, and I was playing through that, and I want to get Brotherhood pretty soon. And what else? I think I fired up another game of Torchlight pretty recently, just to start a different. I always usually go with like melee characters, and then I force myself to go back and play the RPG with more of a spell casting or a ranged character, just because I want to make sure that that's in my head as to how that all works. But yeah, I guess that's the random assortment of stuff when I'm trying to think of my Steam account. Obviously, Civ 5 when that came out, and I know what I got was Divinity. Divinity 2
Ego.
Yes.
Draconis.
Yeah. So I gotten it when it came out, and then I got the expansion pack, and I started a new game. And when I first got it, I didn't play it much, but I started playing it more. Oh, and then also Gothic 4. Wow. I played that a little bit. So yeah, I play a little bit here and there.
All right, quick follow up on that. Double Fine just announced they're making Sesame Street game. Now, obviously, educational games, most of them are bad. Right. And they're not made by developers that are big name developers. Do you think there's room for an educational game to actually become a big deal if it's made by a damn good development team?
I think so, and I have no idea how Double Fine is structuring it. But I would say the one thing is I'm not an educator. I'm a game maker. I know how to make a great game. I can make guesses about what is good for education. So I think if we ever went off and did something like that, we would need to hire someone who's an educator. Right. Like, so tell me, like, so what, how do you teach a child something? Because it can't be, I think some of it's the same. Like when we tutorialize our games, that's a little bit of like education. But I would say there's a lot of that we wouldn't know about how to educate. But I think it would be an interesting thing of instead of a education company having one gamer consultant, it's a gamer company with an education consultant.
And another quick follow-up for you. So there's a lot of gamers now that have children.
Right.
Whereas 15 years ago, that wasn't really the case so much. They were just out of college or just getting into college.
Right.
Now they're grown. They have kids that are, probably less than 10 years old. One of the things I heard about, when Double Fine announced that they're doing a Sesame Street game, is nobody seemed to think it was a bad idea.
Right.
But the people who thought it was a good idea, they were split between, which was pretty much everybody. They were split between, I won't play it because it's a kid's game.
Right.
But then there is a huge group of people that were like, I will play that with my kids.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And would you do that?
Oh, absolutely. No, I love playing kids with playing kids. I love playing games with my kids. When the Kinect came out, we fiddled around with that and played on a lot on that. I would say the Lego games are the ones that we played the most together. And we've even like, I'm a kind of a big, obviously, RPG board game dork. And so we've even kind of like started to bring in a little bit of that from a standpoint, not hardcore stuff. I got Kids of Carscone, which is our I can never say it. It's Carcassonne. Carcassonne.
Yeah.
And so, but there's a kid version.
Oh.
And my kids love it. And it's my 7-year-old daughter. I probably got it when she was 6, and she'll bring it out all the time and teaches people. And it's so funny to see her. She loves putting down the tiles so it screws people. And I'm like, it's like you're 7. How is that already in there?
You already figured that.
You already figured that it's already screw your neighbor. You know what I mean?
The system.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're doing that as well. So I think a lot of it is and I think, and it's just fun. And so I don't know why I would bring up the Lego games. I think, I don't know if, I certainly never have dismissed them. I think some people sometimes do dismiss them as, it's just the Lego games, other than the fact they've sold 17.5 billion units. But I mean, the thing is, like, the thing that it's Telltale, right? Telltale. Yeah. That they have done so well is that kids just feel successful when playing them, and if they die, those games really made me think a lot about how much you penalize players for death. Like, why penalize people unless your game is centered around that skill of not dying? Just penalize them with a blue thing, right? Or not, and so it was interesting because it just made my son play. So I don't know, I thought they're awesome games.
I noticed that one of the boardrooms is like an epic board game collection.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and I'm looking at the thing, and I'm like, every single board game I have is in here.
Right.
There is no board game I have that's not. I mean, how often do you guys just get together to play board games?
We try once a week, and sometimes I do it at lunch. I say we have not been good about it lately, just because things have been so busy. And and for me, I always want to try to start it up again. And we have actually a designer that's now working on Dungeon Siege 3, a guy named Jesse Farrell. He really pushes it, which is awesome. But yeah, the board games are just fun because I think they're a great escape, and particularly the German board games are awesome because it's like a 60 to maybe 120-minute thing. Yeah. And you're in and you're out and you had fun and maybe you had a couple beers while you're playing, and it's a great separation from kind of everything else that's going on. And the rules are often, I'm always amazed and really inspired by kind of the rules that they can come up with. There's a board game called Power Grid that we play, and just it's modeling of the commodity market. Yeah. I'm like, it's perfect. It's simple but perfect, and so those are actually, I think they're great to play as well.
All right. Well, I think that's all I had. So thank you so much, Feargus.
You're very welcome. It's great.